Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. Save a trip to the doctor and let their pharmacists test and prescribe your medications. From strep throat to birth control to UTIs and migraines. Stop into the store or schedule online at safeway.com/pharmacy. Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado, proudly calling Colorado home for over 90 years. Dedicated to showing up for the community and putting people first. Credit Union of Colorado. Learn more at cuofco.org.
You don't need me to remind you just how sad this winter has been, so you can forgive me for getting excited to read that maybe help is on the way in the form of El Niño. New climate models released this weekend are pointing to what could be the most powerful El Niño event in recorded history. Now, globally, that usually means hotter temperatures in fall and winter. But here in Colorado, it could bring something we've been missing: moisture. And in past El Niño years, Colorado's snowpack has been well above average. It's still a long ways off, so things can change. But come on, it's the first decent snow forecast we've had in a while, even if it is half a year away. I'm Arlo Pérez Esquivel. Coming up, April showers lead to May flowers, but May hailstorms lead to June insurance claims.
Whether you're in the high country or along the eastern plains, you are paying for the hail that hits our state.
How lawmakers want to bring those damage costs down. Then, the Denver Art Museum is reexamining and returning looted art from its collection.
It went missing. Fast forward about 50 years, and the Denver Art Museum gets it as a gift.
And we talked to a Grammy Award-winning University of Denver professor. It's Wednesday, April 8th. Here's the news in Colorado today.
We're going to get started here real quick.
Lawmakers unveiled a bill at the state capitol yesterday meant to tackle a growing headache for homeowners.
Hail is the single largest driver of homeowners insurance costs in Colorado, with rates increasing by 233% since 2007.
A really bad hailstorm can cause more than $1 billion in insurance losses, and that in just a few minutes. To bring those damages down, Democratic Senator Kyle Mullica and others want to make it cheaper for homeowners to install hail-resistant roofing.
What does this bill do? It creates a grant program to get hardened roofs on Colorado homes. The money from the program comes from a 0.5% fee that insurers pay on all homeowners policies in the state.
CPR's Benta Birkeland is covering the proposal. Benta, can hail shingles really make that much of a difference?
From what I've heard, yes. They're not foolproof, but they do make it a lot less likely that a house will need a new roof after a hailstorm. The problem is that these shingles cost more than a regular roof. So the idea behind this bill is that these grants would help people cover some of that extra amount. So that should mean more people will install these higher grade shingles.
Well, on that topic, we heard that lawmakers say that the grant money would be paid by insurance companies and that they couldn't pass down the cost to consumers. But can the state really ensure that?
So I'm not sure how the state can really stop insurers from wrapping this into the cost of a premium. But the bill explicitly says insurance companies won't be allowed to break it out as a surcharge in your insurance bill. And Senator Mullica helped defeat a similar measure last year because he said he was worried homeowners would end up paying this fee. So he does think the state will be able to enforce this ban, or at least that it'll hold up in practice. He says he really wants to make sure homeowners don't pay more money because of this policy. The goal is to lower rates.
So what does the insurance industry think of the idea?
They're generally behind it. The industry pushes mitigation and lowering risk across the country, especially in states like Colorado that deal with a lot of natural disasters, because you have to keep in mind the cost of these disasters, wildfire or hail, it ultimately does get passed on to customers. And the insurance industry says more hail-resistant roofs, that means the industry will pay out fewer claims, save money in the long run, and create more stability for the market. So at the press conference at the Capitol unveiling this bill, you actually saw the head of the local industry group standing up there with lawmakers and saying companies are on board with this.
Bente Berglund, thank you.
Thanks so much.
The Denver Art Museum's collection is shrinking, well, just a bit. Last month, the museum returned a 6th century marblehead to Turkey after an investigation found that it originally belonged to the country's national collections. This is just the latest in a series of repatriations from the museum in recent years, driven by concerning revelations about the museum's history of acquiring and displaying art with questionable origins. Sam Tabachnik with the Denver Post was part of the 2022 investigation into the museum's historical collection and has been following the efforts since to return some of those pieces to more appropriate collections. Hey there, Sam.
Hey, Arlo.
I want to start with the marblehead. I think I remember a bit about it, but tell me more about this piece.
This is a marble sculpture of a man's head made in the 6th century. It's originally from a basilica in the ancient Greek city of Smyrna, these days known as Izmir, on the Aegean coast. It was first excavated in 1934 and published in scholarly sources, but then it went missing. Fast forward about 50 years, and the Denver Art Museum gets it as a gift from the estate of Marie Macy, the wife of a former U.S. Foreign Service officer who served as consul general in Istanbul in the 1940s.
Wow. So, okay, I sort of see the path that the sculpture might have taken to get here. But how did the museum conclude that they needed to return it?
Well, the museum has gotten quite a lot of bad press over the last few years when it comes to how it has acquired and displayed looted art, and it's clear leaders there want to change the narrative. The dam created its own provenance department in 2022. This involves a team of researchers looking into the ownership histories of its massive collection. Though, to be fair to the museum, it looks like the concerns with the marble head in particular go back much further. A statement they sent me indicates they first reached out to the Turkish Museum around 2013 to ask about the piece. But nothing happened until last year, when Turkish authorities confirmed the head was missing from its national collections. A few months after that, it was in Turkish hands.
You said that the head came from the estate of a former foreign service worker, but a lot of the most questionable pieces are connected to someone else.
So a lot of this centers around a longtime museum consultant, trustee, and art scholar named Emma C. Bunker. Bunker passed away in 2021, but before that, she was instrumental in helping the museum acquire a bunch of different antiquities. Our investigation at the Post found that many of those pieces had been pillaged from ancient temples in Southeast Asia. The museum, after our series, ended up removing her name from its Southeast Asian gallery wall and even returned a 6-figure donation to her family. They've also returned pieces connected to her to Vietnam, Thailand, and Cambodia.
Wow. Okay, so it seems like a lot of the dubiously acquired pieces are connected with Bunker, but the marblehead was not among them, right?
Right.
So then just how much of the collection is in question?
Well, the museum's collection is enormous. It's over 70,000 pieces. And so the museum's provenance team is looking into a lot of their collection, though it's hard from the outside to know exactly what they're looking into. It's also funny that we're talking today because yesterday, the 7th, was International Provenance Research Day. The museum sent out a press release highlighting some of their other repatriation efforts, including with a set of pieces called the Benin Bronzes, which were a series of high-profile pieces that were pillaged by British forces at the end of the 1800s from what is now southern Nigeria. Now, the Nigerian government has been quite vocal about trying to get these pieces back from private collections and museums around the world, and that's where the Denver Art Museum comes into play.
Sam Tabachnik with the Denver Post. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Remy LeBoeuf spends a lot of the time playing his saxophone in his office at the University of Denver. It is one of the places that he experiments with new compositions, playing to an audience of well-cared-for plants. But earlier this winter in Los Angeles, the room was a little more lively.
I was with 2 of my collaborators, and we just looked at each other in disbelief and just stood up, made our way to the stage. And I was almost floating to the stage. I was aware of the moment. I was like thinking about it almost outside myself.
LaBeouf talked with CPR's Sandy Batulga about his recent Grammy award-winning composition, First Snow.
I was just sitting at my piano in my apartment here in Denver, and it was October 28th, the first snow of the year. It was my sister's birthday, and I think I probably just had a coffee or a tea or something and had a moment to write and was exploring ideas on the piano. So I think the piece is based on seconds. It's two notes right next to each other forming a kind of dissonant crunch, and trying to make that dissonance beautiful.
First Snow was ultimately performed by a Danish jazz orchestra called Nordkraft Big Band, which LaBeouf also conducts.
When you orchestrate something for a jazz orchestra, which is maybe 17, 18, 19 people, it becomes a lot more epic. So a piece that might be more intimate, once I start adding more instruments, you can try to retain that intimacy. But I think this piece, it had moments of delicacy for sure, but moments of, celebration, moments of intensity. And, I think it evolves. It's a story, and a story has a lot of different emotions within it.
And though it started with dissonant piano notes, his first love also gets a feature on the record.
I chose saxophone because when I was 11 and my school started a band program, I wanted to be cool like my sister who listened to a lot of ska. And so I was like, I'm going to play the saxophone because they have saxophones in the ska band. I think I'd tried composing when I was 13 and wrote like a melody or something. I had these big things in my imagination, but I didn't really have the understanding to put those down on paper or anything. So I remember I had my sister's old karaoke machine, which used tapes. And I would like sing these ideas onto her tapes and be like, oh, and the orchestra comes in here. And that, and I wasn't writing for an orchestra or anything. Like I was 13, but I had a lot of fun and I had a big imagination.
LaBeouf may have been eager to show off the new Grammy hardware to his sister, had it not been for his brother, Pascal.
He won a Grammy in the same category last year, my identical twin, which is just bonkers.
But according to LaBeouf, it's all brotherly love. They have a band called LaBeouf Brothers with a new album coming out in June.
He's great to collaborate with, and we've been collaborating since before we were born. I know the way that he'll react when I do something. But I think those are the kinds of relationships that a lot of musicians develop over time with each other.
Remy LaBeouf teaches jazz at DU, where he also serves as the chair for the Jazz and Commercial Music Studies program. He directs the Lamont Jazz Orchestra and now is a Grammy Award-winning composer. If you want to hear the full interview with LaBeouf, check out the Colorado Matters podcast at the link in our show notes. Reporting for today's show came from Ray Solomon and CPR's Sandy Batulga. Thank you for listening, and remember to share this podcast with a friend. I'm Arlo Perez Esquivel. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway. Going on a trip soon? Safeway pharmacists can help no matter where you're headed with travel vaccines, medications, and over-the-counter items. Schedule your consultation at safeway.com/pharmacy.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado, proudly calling Colorado home for over 90 years, dedicated to showing up for the community and putting people first. Credit Union of Colorado. Learn more at cuofco.org.